It was a cold and quiet night in a small town near the forest. John, a lonely man in his early 40s, sat by the fireplace drinking tea. His small wooden house stood far from the main road, away from the noise and people. He liked it that way. Peaceful, silent, and simple. But that night, something broke the silence. A strange sound came from outside. It was not the wind, not an animal, and not a car. It was soft, high, and sad, like a baby crying. John froze, holding his cup in midair. He stood up slowly and walked toward the door. Again, the cry came, low and painful. He opened the door, expecting to see maybe a hurt puppy or someone lost, but what he saw made his heart stop. On the porch lay a small glowing bundle. It was wrapped in silver fabric that shimmered like the moon. Inside, a baby, not like any human baby, tiny, thin, with light purple skin and big glowing blue eyes. Its fingers were long, and its ears pointed like leaves, but it was crying like any other baby. Hungry and scared, John looked around quickly. In the distance, under the trees, he saw a shadow moving away slowly. The figure was tall, weak and limping. Then it vanished into the darkness. John stepped outside, his boots crunching the cold ground. He noticed small green drops on the wooden floor. Not blood, but something like it. He looked again at the baby. It stopped crying and looked up at him. Its eyes, they reminded him of his daughter who passed away 5 years ago. Same sadness, same deep color, same helplessness. Without thinking more, John picked up the baby. It was ice cold, barely breathing. He wrapped it in an old blanket and brought it inside. He placed the baby on the couch and turned on the heater. He ran to the kitchen, poured warm milk into a bottle, and came back. He didn't know if it would work, but to his surprise, the baby drank slowly. Its body began to glow a little brighter. John smiled for the first time in years, but in the shadows of the forest, the mother watched. Her skin shimmered like glass, making her almost invisible. She was bleeding, weak, and heartbroken. She placed her hand on a tree, her fingers leaving behind a mark of light. "Forgive me," she whispered. "This is your only chance." Back in the house, John sat near the baby, thinking hard. What is this? Who left it? What should I do? He picked up his old phone, ready to call the authorities, but something inside stopped him. He remembered how the world treated different things. He remembered how they treated people like him, broken, sad, alone. They wouldn't help. They would take the baby and lock it away. The baby moved its hand and touched his. A small jolt passed through him, not pain, but warmth. He felt something in his chest, like a lost light turning on again. He stood up and locked the door. "I don't know who you are," he said softly, "but you're not alone anymore." The baby blinked slowly and closed its eyes. Finally at peace, John stayed up all night, watching the fire and the baby. Something inside him had changed. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing. He would protect this child, no matter what, outside, in the cold forest. The alien mother collapsed behind a tree. She looked at the stars, and a single tear rolled down her glowing cheek. Then she vanished, her body turning into small lights that rose into the sky. Far above, satellites beeped and blinked. One of them caught a signal, a strange energy from John's house. Somewhere in a secret base, a red alarm began to flash, and men in black suits began to move. But John knew nothing of this. He sat near the baby, eyes heavy with sleep. For the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. The next morning felt different. The sun was shining, birds were singing, but inside John's small house, everything had changed. He wasn't alone anymore. There was a baby alien sleeping in his living room, wrapped in an old blanket, glowing softly like a night light. John stood in the doorway, just watching. He had expected to wake up and find nothing there. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe he was losing his mind. But no, it was real. The baby moved a little, made a small sound, and reached out with tiny purple fingers. John took a deep breath. "What am I doing?" he whispered to himself. But deep inside, He already knew the answer. He was protecting the child, even if he didn't understand it. He went into the kitchen and tried to warm more milk. This time, he added a little honey, maybe sweetness would help. The baby drank again, slower this time, but with soft noises that almost sounded like thanks. After feeding, the baby stared at John with those glowing blue eyes. That stare made John nervous. It was too calm, too smart for a baby. He looked away for a second, and when he looked back, the baby had vanished. Panic hit him like a hammer. He dropped the bottle and ran around the small house. "Where are you?" he shouted. "Where did you go?" Then, he saw it. The baby was floating only a few inches above the couch, as if gravity didn't fully apply. Its eyes were still wide open, but peaceful. John slowly reached out and touched the child. As soon as he did, the baby floated back down, softly landing on the blanket. His heart was racing. "What are you?" he whispered again, not with fear, but awe. Later that day, John went outside. He checked for signs, footprints, blood, broken branches, anything. The claw marks were still on the porch, and the green drops were dry now. But there was no sign of the mother, no sound, no energy. Just silence in the trees. That night, something strange happened. As John slept, he began to dream. But it wasn't his dream. He was standing in a white room, cold and bright. He saw metal walls, wires and tables. He heard voices, human voices shouting, giving orders. Then he saw her, the alien mother, trapped in a glass cage. She was in pain, weak, and her belly was round. She was pregnant. Scientists walked around, taking notes, ignoring her cries. John tried to move, to help her, but he couldn't. He was just watching, helpless. Suddenly, the dream ended. John woke up sweating, heart pounding. The baby was still there, but now awake, looking straight at him. "Was that you?" John asked, even though he knew the answer. The baby blinked once, very slowly. John stood up and walked outside to get fresh air. The stars above were bright and endless. He felt small, confused, and strangely connected to something bigger. He looked up and whispered, "Why did you leave the baby with me?" In the forest nearby, something shimmered, a hidden shape. Still watching, still breathing, but not for long. The alien mother was almost gone. Her energy fading. She couldn't move anymore, but she could still think, still send messages back. In the house, John placed the baby in a small basket. He added soft towels, a small pillow, and an old teddy bear. The baby reached for the bear and smiled. It was the first time John saw that. It made his chest feel heavy, like tears he couldn't cry. He knew he had a choice. Call the police and hand over the child, or protect it and face whatever came. Next, he had lost one child before. He wasn't going to lose another. Even if this one came from the stars, far away, in a hidden base. A computer lit up with red lights. A signal had been detected, strange energy from a remote forest location. "Send a drone team," a voice said, cold and firm. They might have found it. John didn't know the danger yet. He only knew the baby was more than a visitor. It was a message, a mystery, and maybe a second chance. John knew he needed help, not from the police, not from the government, but from someone he could trust. Someone who could understand science, secrets, and silence. That someone was Martha, a retired scientist who once worked on secret programs. Before she walked away from it all, she lived 2 towns away, hidden in a small house filled with books and broken machines. John hadn't seen her in years, but if anyone could help him understand this baby, it was her. He packed a small bag, some baby clothes, warm milk, and a soft blanket. The baby made no noise as he carried it to the truck. It simply looked at him, with glowing eyes that seemed older than time. The road was quiet, but John kept checking the mirrors. He had a feeling they weren't alone anymore. Something was watching, somewhere in the sky. Martha opened her door with sleepy eyes and a raised eyebrow. "John? At 6 in the morning? You better have a good reason." He didn't say anything, just showed her the baby. She blinked, stared, then stepped aside. Inside, her house was like a museum of science and memory. Old radios, glass tubes, robot arms, and dusty blueprints covered every surface. She took the baby in her arms carefully. "What is it?" she asked, whispering. "I don't know," John replied, "but I think it's part human." They ran tests, simple ones at first: blood type, reflexes, heartbeat, skin temperature. Then Martha took a single drop of blood and placed it under her old DNA scanner. The machine whirred and clicked, coughing like an old man waking from a long sleep. As the data loaded, both of them stood silently. The screen beeped once, then twice, then stopped. John leaned forward. "What does it say?" Martha didn't answer. She was frozen, staring at the result. 50% human, she whispered. And 50% unknown. Not animal, not plant, not machine. Something never recorded before. She looked at John, eyes wide. "This baby is a hybrid." John sat down slowly, feeling the weight of it all. The dreams, the blood, the baby's powers. It all made sense now. Someone had mixed human and alien DNA. Someone had made this child. And someone didn't want it to live. Martha looked worried now. If this is real, if the baby is part of us, then someone somewhere is hiding something huge. John nodded. "I think the mother escaped. She brought the child to me, to save it." Martha stood up and walked to a locked cabinet. She took out a small metal box and opened it. Inside were old files, photographs, and a strange silver chip. "I used to work on a project years ago," she said. "We studied energy signals from deep space. One day we found a signal, strong and strange. A week later, the lab was shut down, and we were told to forget everything." John stared at the chip. "What's on it?" "Data," she replied. "But it needs power to open, alien power." Just then, the baby floated up again, its small hands glowing softly. Martha stepped back, eyes wide. "It's reacting to the chip," she said. The baby reached out and touched the silver square. In an instant, the chip lit up, and images filled the room. Holograms of alien worlds, diagrams of DNA, photos of labs, and one final image. The alien mother, strapped to a table, tears in her eyes. John felt sick. They had used her, forced her. And now they were looking for the child. Suddenly, a sound outside, a faint humming. Martha ran to the window. A small black drone floated in the sky, scanning the house. John grabbed the baby and ducked. "It found us," Martha whispered. "You need to go, now." She handed him the chip. "Take this, protect it, and find out the truth." John nodded. Holding the baby close, he ran to his truck, heart racing behind him. The drone blinked red and flew upward, sending a signal. In a government base far away, men in suits watched the screen. "We found the hybrid," one of them said. "Send a team, no mistakes this time." John didn't know where to go, but he knew one thing. The baby was not a mistake. It was made for something bigger. And he would do whatever it took to keep it safe. John didn't drive far. Just deep enough into the forest where trees grew tall and shadows were thick. He parked near an old cabin, one he hadn't used in years. It was dusty, cold, and quiet, but safe, at least for now. The baby was calm in his arms, glowing softly. But John could feel something in the air, something heavy, like a storm building with no wind. He placed the baby on a blanket and locked the doors. Then, without warning, his head began to hurt. Not like a normal headache, but like pressure inside his skull. His vision blurred, and the room began to fade. Suddenly, he wasn't in the cabin anymore. He was standing inside a white metal room, cold and lifeless. The air smelled like burned wires and fear. Glass walls surrounded him, and behind them, cages. Cages filled with beings that didn't belong on Earth. He turned and saw her. The alien mother, weak, shaking, her hands chained, her eyes filled with pain. Her body had changed. Her skin was pale, and her stomach was swollen. She was pregnant. Humans in lab coats stood around her. Talking, not listening, one of them held a glowing tablet, smiling like it was just another experiment. John watched as they took her blood, forced her to eat, and tested her tears. They didn't treat her like a person, just a puzzle to break. He wanted to scream, to hit them, but he was just a ghost in the memory, a visitor in her pain. The dream shifted. Now he saw her escaping, running through dark hallways, carrying the baby. Alarms blared, lights flashed red, but she didn't stop. Her body was breaking, but her will was stronger. She reached a forest, his forest, and saw the cabin from a distance. She looked down at the baby and whispered something in her alien language. Then she placed it on his porch, kissed its forehead, and disappeared into the night. John woke up gasping. The baby was staring at him again. He knew it now. Those dreams weren't dreams. They were her memories, given to him. A gift, a message, a warning. He stepped outside, looking toward the trees. "Are you still out there?" he whispered. He didn't have to wait long. From the fog, a faint shape appeared. Limping, glowing, weak, it was her, the alien mother, still alive but only barely. She walked toward the cabin slowly, like each step might be her last. John rushed to her, arms open, unsure of what to say. She collapsed before he reached her. He caught her just in time. Her body was cold, flickering with strange light, like a dying star. She looked at him with tired eyes and spoke without sound. Words inside his mind. "You saw," she said. "You understand now," John nodded, eyes full of guilt and rage. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't know they did this." She shook her head weakly. "No sorry," she said. "Only protect him." He helped her inside, laid her down beside her child. The baby reached out and touched her face. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Glowing like silver, John sat beside her, unsure what else to do. "I will keep the baby safe," he promised. She smiled. "Barely. Thank you," she said. "You are not like the others." And then, her light began to fade. Her body turned soft. Like mist in the morning, she whispered one last thing. His name. "Is Solon." And then she was gone. Not dead, just gone. Her body faded into tiny lights, floating up through the ceiling and into the sky. John held the baby. No. Solon, close to his chest, but peace didn't last. In the distance, tires crushed leaves. Engines roared softly. Black vehicles rolled into the woods like silent wolves. Inside them, men wore black suits and carried cold eyes. They moved without sound, following signals and heat maps. Their leader spoke into a headset. "Target confirmed. Cabin location locked." John looked out the window, heart pounding. They had found him. They had found Solon. And they weren't here to talk. He turned off the lights, held the baby tighter. "I won't let them take you," he whispered. "Not now, not ever." Outside, red lasers danced through the trees, and a voice echoed from a speaker. "This is your only warning. Come out with the child." But John had already made his choice. The cabin stood still, wrapped in darkness and dread. Outside, red beams moved like snakes across trees and windows. Inside, John sat on the floor, holding Solon in his arms. His heart beat like a war drum, loud and afraid. The baby's glow was dim now, calm, but watching. It knew somehow that danger had come. A voice from a black van spoke again. "Step outside with the child, or we will come in." John didn't move. His eyes scanned the room, searching for anything useful. A weapon, a door, a plan. There was no time to run, and nowhere to hide. Then he remembered the cellar, an old storage room below the floorboards. He used it for tools and firewood. Now it might save a life. John set Solon down gently, pulled back the rug, and opened the trapdoor. He placed the baby inside, wrapped in blankets. "I'll come back for you," he whispered. "Stay quiet, stay brave." The baby touched his hand and blinked slowly. John closed the hatch, covered it again, and stood. His hands were shaking, but his face was stone. Footsteps outside, slow, heavy, many. The door burst open with a crash of light and noise. Men in black rushed in with glowing rifles and blank faces. They surrounded John in seconds. "Where is it?" One of them said. "I don't know what you're talking about," John replied. A soldier stepped forward and punched him hard. John fell to the ground, blood dripping from his lip. But he smiled. They hadn't found the hatch. Suddenly, the room changed. The lights flickered. The air grew thick. A sharp tone rang out. High, painful, alien. The soldiers dropped their weapons and grabbed their heads. Screaming, one by one, they collapsed, unconscious. John crawled toward the hatch and pulled it open. Solon was floating, eyes glowing white. His tiny arms were raised, his body surrounded by a soft sphere of energy. He wasn't crying. He was protecting. John stared, frozen in shock. Then the baby's glow faded, and he dropped gently into John's arms. Outside, more soldiers rushed toward the house. They had seen the light from the sky. They knew something had gone wrong then. Impossible happened. From behind the cabin, a tall glowing shape appeared. It was her, the alien mother, or what was left of her. She was no longer flesh and blood, but pure light and memory. She raised her hands, and time seemed to pause. The trees froze. The air stopped moving. John looked at her, eyes full of questions. She spoke without words. "One chance," she said. "Take him, run." She turned toward the soldiers. With one motion, she sent a wave of energy through the forest. Machines shut down. Weapons melted. Vehicles flipped. The air cracked with sound and silence. John ran, holding Solon close. He didn't look back. Behind him, the forest glowed, burned, and twisted. The ghost of a mother standing tall between two worlds. Fighting one last time for the life she made, he ran until his lungs burned. Through trees, rivers, and rocks, until he found an old road. There, hidden under branches, was his old motorbike. He placed Solon in a backpack wrapped in cloth. The baby was silent, eyes closed, still glowing softly. He kicked the bike into gear and rode. No plan, no map. Only one mission. Keep Solon safe. Keep moving. In the sky above, satellites blinked. The signal had vanished. The child was gone again. And the hunt was not over. Asterisk far above Earth, beyond the clouds. A signal echoed into space. It was silent to human ears, but not to those who waited on a dark moon orbiting a forgotten planet. A council of shadows stirred. They had many names, but to most galaxies, they were called the Purgaburn. They hated hybrids. To them, blood must be pure. To them, Solon was not a child. He was a mistake, a threat, a symbol of change they feared. One of the Purgaburn leaders stood in front of a glowing map. "Activate the hunters," he said. "The beacon has awakened." A fleet of black ships rose from the moon's surface, silent and invisible. Their engines hummed like whispers from the dark. They turned toward Earth. Back on Earth, John had taken Solon deep into the mountains. Far from roads, cities, and signals, he found an old cave system, dry and wide, a place forgotten by most. There, they rested, but John couldn't sleep, not with questions in his head and fire in his chest. That night, as Solon slept, someone stepped into the cave, a tall figure wearing a cloak of stars, face hidden by shadow. John stood up quickly, holding a rock in his hand, but the figure raised its hand, calm, peaceful. "I'm not here to harm," the voice said, soft but powerful. "I'm here because of the child." John didn't trust easily, but something in the voice made him. "Listen." The figure removed its hood, revealing silver eyes and skin like shifting water. "My name is Kale," he said. "I am a watcher." Kale sat by the fire and looked at Solon. "You don't know what he is, do you?" "I know he's not from here," John replied. "But I don't care. He's mine now." Kale smiled gently. "He's more than alien, more than human. He is a beacon." John raised an eyebrow. "A what?" Kale explained. "Long ago, before humans built cities, a war broke out among the stars. Races fought over power, land, and pride. But one race believed in peace through unity, the Arvian. They had a prophecy. One that said a child would be born between species. A child that could connect minds, heal worlds, and end wars. Solon was that child. He had already shown signs, the dreams, the energy, the scream that froze soldiers. He wasn't just surviving, he was evolving, and the galaxy had noticed. But peace is dangerous to those who feed on fear, Kale said. The Purgaburn will kill him if they find him, and they are coming. John looked at the sleeping baby. He had protected him from humans. Now he had to protect him from something far worse. What do we do? He asked. Kale opened his hand, revealing a small silver orb. This is a key, he said, to a place called Heavenreach, a world that hides children like Solon, hybrids, dreamers, survivors. But the path there is not easy. Before John could speak, the ground shook. A low rumble echoed through the cave walls. Kale stood up fast, eyes glowing. They found us, he said. You must go now. Outside the cave, dark ships hovered above the clouds, creatures with wings of smoke and armor of bone dropped to the earth. They made no sound, but their presence made the forest tremble. The Purgaburn had arrived, and they were hunting. Kale turned to John. Take the orb, follow the light, find Heavenreach. John held Solon close and grabbed the orb. It glowed in his hand, pulsing like a heartbeat. As Kale stepped outside to face the creatures, he whispered, Go, Guardian of the beacon. The stars are watching. John ran into the night. No map, no help. Just purpose. Behind him, the sky lit with fire and shadows. But ahead, the orb began to show the way, a trail of light that would lead them to the stars. The night sky was burning. John ran through the dark forest, branches snapping, leaves flying behind him. In one arm, he held Solon tight against his chest. In the other, he gripped the glowing silver orb, their only path to safety. Behind them, the sound of war chased them, explosions, roars, energy pulses cracking trees in half. Kale was still fighting, alone, holding off creatures that weren't made of flesh. John didn't look back. He couldn't. There was only one mission now: get Solon to Heavenreach. The orb in his hand began to hum louder. Lights appeared in the air, like stars being born from nothing. They moved in a circle, spinning faster, forming a portal of light. It shimmered like water but buzzed like lightning. John paused, staring at it. Is this it? He whispered. Solon opened his eyes, and they glowed brighter than ever before. Yes, a voice said. Not out loud, but inside his mind. It was Solon. He was speaking. Finally, John stepped forward. But the earth cracked behind him. One of the Purgaburn hunters landed with a thud. Its body was long and twisted, with claws made of bone and smoke. It growled low, and its eyes burned with hate. John didn't move. He held Solon tighter, standing between the creature and the light. The hunter raised its arm, ready to strike. Then Solon reached out. A wave of energy exploded from his tiny hand. But it wasn't violent. It was pure, calm, full of memory and feeling. The hunter froze, caught in the wave. Its mind was filled with the mother's pain, John's love, Kale's sacrifice. And something changed. The creature lowered its arm. Then it stepped back. For a second, even hate had been silenced. John stepped into the portal. Colors swirled around them. Gold, silver, deep violet. He held on as the world shifted, twisted, and then stillness, silence, light. They were no longer on Earth. They stood in a green valley under two suns. The sky was blue and gold, and birds with crystal wings flew above them. Tall towers shimmered in the distance, not made of steel, but of light and music. This was Heavenreach. John dropped to his knees, overwhelmed. Solon floated gently from his arms and stood on his own. He looked older already, not in size but in presence. People began to appear, humans, aliens, hybrids, all peaceful, all glowing. They smiled at Solon, as if they had been waiting. An elder stepped forward, a tall woman with silver eyes. Welcome, she said. Beacon and Guardian. John looked around, confused. Me? He asked. I'm just a mechanic. The woman shook her head. No, you are the one who said yes when others would say no. You gave love to the unknown. Solon turned to John, reached for his hand. Stay? He asked in his soft voice. John looked at the sky. Earth was just a small star now. He remembered the pain, the fear, the loss. But here, there was peace. He nodded. Yes, we stay. The people of Havenreach surrounded them. They sang without words. A sound that felt like home, and Solon smiled for the first time without worry. In a corner of the valley, a single glowing flower grew. It shimmered like the light the alien mother became. And above it, a message appeared in soft energy. Thank you, John. As the stars turned above them, John held Solon's hand. They had escaped war, crossed worlds, and changed fate. Not with weapons, but with love and somewhere. In galaxies far away, others like them began to wake, because the beacon had survived and a new future had begun.